Let's talk about face masks, right? You've got to wear them in public places, certain public places, public transport, shops, and lots of other places beside. The big question, the big debate, the big thing's getting everybody going now is should children wear them in school? Is that unreasonable?
Yeah, well, in the last hour, Scotland's Education Secretary, John Swinney, has said that from Monday, secondary school pupils will need to wear face coverings when they're moving through the corridors at school or in other communal areas in the school.
Is that reasonable? That seems reasonable
to me.
Well, he
thinks it is. He thinks it's reasonable.
Right, so will the rest of the UK follow suit on that one? We're joined now by two people with very different views on this. Here's Liz Cole from the campaign group Us for Them, and joining her, Catherine Cooper, who's in France, and she's there with her 16-year-old daughter, Livy. And Catherine, what's it like in France? How are things working there from your perspective and from Livy's perspective?
Well, obviously, the children haven't quite gone back to school yet, but the plan is that all children aged 11 and up will be wearing masks in class, in the corridors. Basically, most of the time they're there to protect each other and to obviously protect the teachers too. And this seems to me very much in line with, I mean, since the end of lockdown, all children over 11 have had to wear masks on public transport, for example. And then more recently, they've brought in that you have to wear them in, well, basically all enclosed spaces, supermarkets and the like, and even in certain towns, including Toulouse, which is our local town where Livy goes to school, you have to wear masks even when you're out in the street. This is 11 and over, not small children. OK, well
Livy,
you're... sensible.
Yeah, you think it's sensible. Livy, you're the one that's going to have to do it. What do you think?
I think it's, as my mum said, it's completely very reasonable because obviously there's a whole pandemic around us, and not wearing a mask will obviously put the teachers to risk, and then the children who are going to go back and go and see their families maybe and maybe visit their grandparents at the weekend. It just puts a lot more people at risk than if you actually wore a mask. It would be a lot safer generally and just helping everybody out to stay safe and probably even save lives, to be honest. So it's just generally a lot better and very understandable they have to wear a mask at school the whole time.
And what about your friends, Livy? Obviously, you've been in contact, you haven't been at school since March, so like a lot of children. You've kept in touch with them. How's everybody feeling about going back and about having to wear a mask?
Well, obviously, we'd rather not wear a mask because, you know, it's not the most comfortable thing to wear. But personally, I'm more happy to go back and wear a mask the whole time than stay at home and being homeschooled because it's a lot harder to concentrate and all that. And on from my friends' point of view, they're the same as me. They just want to get back to school and feel like free again instead of being stuck at home the whole time. So wearing a mask isn't that big a deal for us. It's not an ideal world, obviously, but it's a lot better than just staying at home.
Well, wearing a mask is a big deal for our next guest, who you can see there, Liz Cole. Liz has started a change.org petition against face mask wearing for school children. How many signatures have you got so far, Liz?
I think we've got up to nearly 10,000 signatures now, across the UK. And we very much oppose the wearing of face masks in schools. I think the question, that I have here is, what is the evidence that this is actually going to be of any benefit? And Russell Viner came out very clearly last night on BBC Newsnight saying that the evidence that this is going to be of benefit in a school setting is rather weak. And in fact, worse than that, it could actually increase the risk of transmission in a school setting.
So that's what I was going to ask you, Liz. So there may not be evidence one way or the other, but I was going to say to you, what's the harm? And you actually think that the harm is it could spread this virus?
Well, this is what the experts have said to us quite clearly yesterday. Jenny Harries made that point, the Deputy Chief Medical Officer. Russell Viner, I think, made the same point on Newsnight last night, and Callum Semple, who sits on Sage, had made the same point as well. And I think what we're talking about here is asking, teenagers to wear a mask either all day or for a significant portion of the day. They'll be touching their faces. They may not comply with that. Is that actually going to be of any benefit? And I think what we've also got to think about here is, we know that children are not the ones that are actually driving the transmission of this virus. We've seen a lot of data coming out from Public Health England. We know that the small number of outbreaks that we had in schools in England when the schools were open were a small number, and they typically were driven by staff to staff transmission and not from children.
So what are you making about what's happening in Scotland then? So in Scotland, they're saying, right, you don't have to wear these in class, but you should wear them in corridors or communal areas.
Well, I think that's still a significant part of the school day. So, there's a couple of points here. The corridors and communal areas are actually where children are having their social interactions. They're sitting in class, they are going to be all facing forwards. But they're going to be in corridors is where they want to have their social interactions. And the communal areas are where they have their social interactions. And let's remember that these children have been out of school, many of them, for 6 months. I know my children are really looking forward to getting back to school, reconnecting with their friends, rebuilding those friendships. School's already going to look very different for them. And I think imposing an intervention like mask wearing, which the experts have said has either weak evidence that there's a benefit or actually could increase the risk of transmission, makes no sense to me when children actually want to get back to school, they want to see their friends.
But they used to, but Liz, a lot of children, they're used to seeing adults wearing them. They go about there, if they're on a bus, if they go with their parents into a supermarket, they see adults, they see other children wearing masks. Do you not think, if it was just explained to them, look, this is just, we think, a safer way, there's no absolute proof, but it might help, do you not think they would just understand that and go along with that?
Well, I think children do go along with things and they do adapt to things, don't they? I think it's quite a different matter to say we're going to go on the bus or we're going to pop into the shop to expecting, an educational environment where it's a time for learning that children are going to be wearing a mask there. I think it's a very, very different situation. But also, we don't know.
Sorry, I just want to get Catherine's reaction, Catherine and Livy, what they're hearing from you, Liz, as to your objections and whatever. Catherine, what would you like to say?
A couple of things, really. Liz mentioned some experts, which of course say that the transmission isn't so great. But at the end of the day, the WHO is recommending that. Obviously there is a lot of uncertainty around it all because the disease is so new. But WHO is recommending that children over 12 wear masks. And I think in many ways that seems like it's just erring on the side of caution, really, isn't it? It may be that the younger children don't transmit, but at what age does that stop? None of us are scientists here, as far as I know. And I think in that case, you have to just follow the best advice. And the second thing I wanted to say was that, of course, in the ideal world, the children wouldn't want to wear the mask, but they will adapt. They don't really mind. To be honest, my experience has really been that it's actually the children who are less. I hate wearing a mask. I loathe it, but I do it because I have to, and I should do. It seems to me that the kids are actually less bothered about it. They're very adaptable. They get used to things, and at the end of the day, it'll just become normal for them. It's not ideal, but neither is it the end of the world. At the end of the day, you have to go with what's going to keep people safest, whether that's the children.
Liz, back to you.
Yeah, can I just make a point? So on the WHO guidelines, I think people are not reporting the full content of those guidelines. Those guidelines say that children are recommended to wear masks in cases where there is high viral prevalence. At the moment in England, we have 99.96% of people.
It says also where they can't stay 1 metre apart.
No, it says in schools. Widespread. It does say where there is widespread transmission, that is what it says. I think we also have to think that children are adaptable, but we have, certain significant minority groups here who will suffer disproportionately by this intervention. We know that 1 in 10 children has communication difficulties. We've heard stories of children with autism who are afraid to go back to school because while they may have an exemption, that's going to then single them out, that they will be the ones who aren't. But I imagine there'll also be parents who'd be afraid to send their children back to school if they know that the other children aren't going to be wearing a mask. In some ways,
it's safer to have everyone wear a mask who can, in the same way to protect those who can't because they've got asthma or autism or some other valid reason not to wear a mask. In the same way, it's important to vaccinate every child who.
Right. OK. Good to hear that. Libby, last word to you. You're the one who's going to have to go to school and wear masks and whatever it is. You looking forward to new term, or have you got a bit of trepidation?
I'm by far looking forward to going back, even with a mask or not. And the only thing I don't understand of your point of view, Liz, is that when supermarkets and all that, kids over 12 years old have to wear a mask. And obviously, you're not all day in a supermarket, but I don't understand if in a supermarket you have to wear a mask, and that is not a big deal, clearly, that at school, we're even more than in the supermarket, we're more grouped together, generally more of a risk to be centre of the COVID. And then we don't have to wear a mask. That's what I don't understand, because it's generally putting more people at risk at school not wearing masks and being in a supermarket and wearing a mask. It's just, it doesn't make that much sense, to be honest.
Well, guys, very articulately put, all of you. Thank you very much indeed for outlining your arguments for and against those masks. We've got a poll which we've been running on our iPad today asking you, and so far 72% of you, they're nearly 3/4, say children should not wear face masks in school, in your opinion. Guys, thank you very much indeed.